My parents split up when I was 10. It wasn't messy, just sad in the quiet kind of way. One day, we were a family of 3. The next, I was packing a weekend bag to go to Dad's new place every other Friday. That rhythm lasted almost a decade. I'd spend most of my time with my mom, but Dad's house still felt like mine in its own way. He kept my room mostly the same: twin bed, bookshelf, a bunch of old basketball trophies I never had the heart to throw away. When he met Dana, things started to shift. Not in a Disney villain stepmom kind of way, she was fine, honestly. Friendly. A little too into those inspirational signs that say stuff like, live, laugh, love, but whatever. She had a daughter named Emma who was just a year younger than me. We got along okay, more polite than close, like 2 people stuck in the same elevator who agreed not to make it awkward. I didn't visit as often once college started. Between classes, work, and life, I didn't have the same free weekends. But every now and then I dropped by. Usually for holidays. My room was always waiting. At least, I thought it was. One Saturday, I decided to visit out of the blue. No holiday. No big reason. I texted Dad the night before and told him I'd swing by the next afternoon. He said, sounds good. When I got there, the front door was unlocked, pretty typical for him. I stepped inside, dropped my backpack in the hallway, and went straight up the stairs toward my room. Except, my room wasn't there. Well, the room was there. It just wasn't mine anymore. The door was open, and inside everything had changed. New paint, a pale lavender color. New bedding, a vanity table, fairy lights strung across the ceiling. The bookshelf was gone, replaced by floating white shelves holding makeup, perfume bottles, and some books I didn't recognize. It didn't take long to realize whose room it was now. Emma's. I just stood there, one hand still on the doorknob, trying to make sense of it. There was no warning. No, hey, we're thinking of repurposing your room conversation. Not even a heads up. A few minutes later, I heard the front door open downstairs. I walked back down slowly. Dad was in the kitchen unpacking a grocery bag. Dana followed behind him, holding a Starbucks cup. Oh hey, you're early, Dad said, like nothing was out of the ordinary. I nodded. Yeah, traffic was light. Then, trying to keep my voice neutral, so when did Emma move into my room? He glanced over his shoulder like I just asked him what time it was. A couple weeks ago. She needed more space. Her old room is smaller, and you haven't really been using yours. That was it. I waited for more, but he just went back to unpacking. Dana chimed in, smiling in that way people do when they're trying to seem warm but don't want to talk too long. We thought it made sense with her starting high school and needing more room to study. You're hardly here these days, right? I nodded slowly. I guess. Dad must have caught something in my expression because he added, it's not like we boxed up your stuff. Most of it's still in the garage if you want it. Still in the garage. Not exactly the welcome home vibe I was expecting. I didn't argue. What was I going to say? Put it all back? The truth is, they weren't wrong. I wasn't there much anymore. But there's a difference between outgrowing a place and being quietly written out of it. That night, I slept on the couch. No one offered the guest room. Probably because there wasn't one anymore. Emma's old room had been turned into a home office that looked like no one ever used it. They didn't ask how school was going. We made small talk about movies, then everyone went to bed early. The next morning, I left before anyone woke up. I texted Dad, thanks for dinner. He replied with a thumbs up emoji. I didn't go back for a while after that. No big blow up. No dramatic exit. Just a quiet feeling I couldn't shake. That maybe that house wasn't mine anymore. I didn't tell anyone. Not my mom, not my friends. It wasn't a big enough deal to bring up, right? They moved a few things around. That's what people do. But as Thanksgiving got closer, I kept thinking about it. The couch. The garage. The way no one even hesitated before giving my room away. I started to wonder what would happen if I just didn't go. Would anyone notice? Would anyone ask? I found out the answer soon enough. And it was exactly what I thought and somehow worse. Thanksgiving came and I didn't go. I didn't announce it. I didn't make a scene. I just didn't text. Didn't call. I waited to see if my absence would cause a ripple. Spoiler, it didn't. Wednesday came and went. Then Thursday morning. Around noon, I got a message from Dad. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope all is good with school. No invite. No, see you soon. Just a line like a neighbor you wave to from your driveway. I waited all day for a second message. A check-in. And where are you? It never came. I stayed in my college apartment, microwaved leftover pasta, and watched a rerun of a football game I didn't care about. It should have felt lonely, but it didn't. Felt confirming. That weekend, I got a photo in the family group chat, just Dad, Dana, and Emma at the dinner table. 3 plates. No fourth. No empty chair. No space saved. Emma had posted the same picture on Instagram with the caption, "First Thanksgiving in our new home. So thankful, 2 hearts." That word stuck with me, new. Not our first Thanksgiving together. Not our new tradition. Just new. Like everything before didn't count. A few days later, Dad finally called. I let it ring once before answering. He jumped in fast. "Hey, you okay?" I shrugged, even though he couldn't see me. "Yeah, just figured you guys had plans." "We always have plans," he said. "You're always invited." "Am I?" I said, because it kind of felt like I wasn't this time. He hesitated. "I sent you a message. You said Happy Thanksgiving. That's not exactly a warm invitation." There was a long pause. Then he said the thing I was dreading, "I didn't think you'd want to come. Not after everything." "What's everything?" I asked, genuinely confused. Another pause. "Then you seemed upset about the room." I didn't answer right away. Was I upset? I didn't throw a fit. I didn't yell. But maybe that was the problem. I didn't make it clear how much it stung. Maybe he thought quiet meant not a big deal. "Look," he added quickly, "I didn't think you'd care that much. You're in college now. I thought you'd want your space to go to someone who's here all the time." "You mean Emma? She lives here," he said, like it was that simple. I kept my voice steady. "So did I. For a long time." He sighed. "This house, it's changing. Life's changing. You're growing up." "Yeah," I said quietly. And somehow I'm the only one being treated like a guest. That hit him. I could tell. But instead of apologizing, he changed the subject. "Are you coming home for Christmas?" I almost laughed. "I don't know. Is there a place for me?" "Of course there is." "On the couch?" A beat passed. Then, like a parent trying to explain something to a kid without admitting fault, he said, "We'll make it work." That phrase, "we'll make it work," stuck with me. It didn't sound like, "We want you here." It sounded like, "We'll figure out how to tolerate the inconvenience." I hung up not angry, but tired. I couldn't figure out why it all bothered me so much. I wasn't a child anymore. I didn't need the twin bed or the trophies. But it wasn't about furniture. It was about place. Not just in the house, but in his life. I talked to my mom about it for the first time the next week. She didn't gloat. Didn't say, "I told you so." She just listened. "That was your home too," she said simply. "You're allowed to feel hurt." That night, I opened an old photo album I hadn't looked through in years. There was a picture of me and Dad building a bookshelf for my room. I must have been 11. We both looked covered in sawdust and proud of absolutely nothing being level. I stared at the photo for a long time. I missed that version of him. A few weeks later, Christmas came. This time, I told him in advance. "I'm staying with Mom this year," I said over the phone. "Oh," he replied. "Okay. Well, we'll miss you." That was it. No argument. No offer to work something out. Just okay. Christmas Day, I got a text. A photo of their tree. The same 3 people. No extra stocking. No mention of me. I didn't cry. But I felt something deeper, like a door had quietly closed and no one noticed it creaked. That might have been the end of it. A clean fade out. But a few days into January, I got a message I didn't expect. Not from Dad. From Emma. "Hey, can I ask you something?" It was the first time she'd ever messaged me directly. I replied, "Sure. Did you really stop coming because of the room? Or was it something else?" I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't know how to answer. Not without saying too much. Not without turning her into a symbol of something she probably didn't ask for. But her timing was strange. The wording even stranger. Something else, like what? Before I could ask, she sent a second message. "I think you should know something. But I don't want to get in the middle." Now that got my attention. Something I should know? Something worth breaking months of silence? I typed and deleted my reply 3 times before settling on. "What do you mean?" It took her 2 hours to respond. When she did, it was just one line. "Dad said something the night you left. Something about your room. It didn't sit right with me." And suddenly, I wasn't just confused anymore. I was curious. And a little afraid. Emma's message played in my head on a loop. "Dad said something the night you left. Something about your room. It didn't sit right with me." I didn't reply right away. Honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to know what she meant. But the longer I waited, the more it gnawed at me. If there was a reason, a real reason, for why my room was taken away so casually, I needed to know. I messaged back. What did he say? She replied the next morning. It was late. We had just moved some of my stuff into your old room. Dana was making tea and your dad stood in the doorway kind of, watching. Then he said it's better this way. She never really liked being here anyway. I read the message twice. What? I didn't remember ever saying anything like that to him. Sure, maybe I'd sulked a few times as a teenager, what kid doesn't? But I'd never said I hated being there. Never once said I felt unwelcome. I replied. He said that to you? To the room, she wrote. Out loud. I was there. He didn't even realize I heard him. I had no idea what to do with that information. It made me feel, replaced rewritten. Like he was trying to convince himself I didn't want to be there in the first place, just to make it easier to erase me. Or maybe to justify it to Dana. That part stung more than I expected. I called my mom that weekend. I asked her something I never had before. Why did you and Dad split? She paused. That's a big question. I know. I need to understand what kind of person he's really been all this time. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said he's not a bad man. But he has this way of smoothing over reality when it doesn't suit him. What do you mean? I mean if something's uncomfortable, he rewrites it in his head. Makes himself the good guy. The rational one. I thought about what Emma had said. About Dad claiming I didn't like being at his house. Was that just part of the story he told himself? He ever do that to you? I asked. All the time, she said softly. When we were arguing, he'd say things like, you're never happy here, or you'd probably be better off without me. Then a week later, he'd tell people I was the one who walked out. Did you? No, she said. But after enough of that, I didn't fight to stay. Something clicked in my chest. Not an answer. More like a realization. Dad didn't lie maliciously, he lied comfortably. A few days later, I finally agreed to meet with Emma. She asked if we could grab coffee while she was near campus with her mom. I almost said no, but curiosity got the better of me. When I got there, she was already sitting outside, nervously playing with a bracelet. Hey, she said. Thanks for coming. We sat, ordered, made small talk that didn't feel small at all. Then she got to the point. I didn't want to message you at first. Dana told me to stay out of it. I raised an eyebrow. But you didn't. I couldn't, she said. It didn't feel right. I appreciated that more than I expected to. Honestly, I'd spent so long resenting her existence that I hadn't really considered her. Just the void she represented. I don't want you to think I asked for any of this, she added. I didn't beg for your room. I didn't even know whose it was at first. Dana just said it was being cleared. I nodded slowly. It's not your fault. She looked relieved. But then she glanced down and said, there's something else that got my attention. She pulled her phone out of her bag, opened her gallery, and showed me a picture. My old room, but stripped completely. Bare walls, empty bookshelves. Even the posters I'd put up years ago were gone. This was taken the day after you left for school, she said. Before I even came over. That didn't make sense. You were already cleaning it out? I asked. She nodded. Your dad said you weren't coming back. I stared at the photo, the date stamp. It was taken 2 days after I moved into my dorm. I hadn't even been gone a week. Did he say why? I asked quietly. Emma hesitated. He said, it's better to rip off the Band-Aid now. She's out. She won't need it again. There was that phrase again. Better this way. My mind spun. I called him from the dorm that week. I told him I missed home. Asked if he could bring up some of my winter clothes later that month. He'd said, of course. Your room's always there for you. Meanwhile, he was boxing it up behind my back. I sat back, exhaling slowly. He really thought I wouldn't notice, I said. Emma didn't reply. She didn't need to. That night I called him. I didn't plan it. I just couldn't hold it in anymore. He answered on the second ring. Hey kiddo, everything okay? No, I said. Not really. He picked up on the tone immediately. What's going on? I know you cleared out my room before you even told me. Silence. I continued. I saw the photo. Emma showed me. Still nothing. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? There was a soft inhale on the line. Then, because I knew you'd take it the wrong way. Meaning, the way a normal person would take finding out their dad erased them from the house without a conversation? He sounded tired. You were gone, okay? You had your own life now. 2 days. I'd been gone for 2 days. It wasn't just about the room, he said. It was everything. You stopped calling. You always seemed distant. I was adjusting to college. I didn't want the house to feel like a shrine, he said. I thought if I turned the page, maybe it'd be easier for everyone. Everyone but me. Silence again. Then he said, it's just a room. That was the final crack. No, I said firmly. It was mine. And you decided, without asking, that I didn't deserve it anymore. And then you lied about it. For months. I didn't lie, he snapped, defensive now. I just didn't bring it up. That's not the same thing to you? He didn't respond. Don't bother asking if I'm coming home again, I added. Because I don't know when that'll feel like home again. Then I hung up. Not in anger. In clarity. Thanksgiving came and went. I stayed on campus. The dorms were mostly empty by the end of that week, quiet in a way I'd never experienced before. A few international students hung around. We exchanged awkward, grateful nods in the hallway like we were part of some secret club. The left behinds. Mom offered to fly me out to see her. But I told her I needed time to think. About a lot of things. About Dad and home and what family really meant. That silence from his end? It continued. No apology. No explanation. Just space. Which honestly told me everything I needed to know. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. About a week before Christmas, Emma texted me again. He's still pretending like you're just busy this year. I read the message 3 times. Then typed, deleted, and retyped a reply. Let him. If that's what helps him sleep at night. She sent back a sad face emoji. Then, I know it's not my place, but this isn't how it should be. You deserve better. Thanks, I replied. And I meant it. I didn't hate Emma. Not anymore. I could see she was stuck in a weird spot too, not quite the villain I'd painted her as when this all started. Just someone caught in the same orbit as a man who believed he could rewrite reality and call it moving on. Christmas Eve came. Mom and I made cookies and watched bad holiday movies in our pajamas. It was the first time in years it had just been the 2 of us, no awkward pickups, no alternating schedules. Just peace. At one point, she handed me a box. I found this in the attic last month, she said. Figured it might mean something now. Inside were a few things from when I was younger, a stuffed bear I used to sleep with at her place, a photo strip from a carnival Dad took me to when I was 10, and a small notebook I used to write poems in. I hadn't seen it in years. I flipped it open and found one poem I barely remembered writing. They say home is where the heart is, but mine is split in 2. Half in the house I sleep in. Half in the one with you. I read it in silence. Then closed the notebook. Your dad loved you, Mom said gently. He just didn't know how to hold on to you without making it all about him. That line stuck with me. Didn't know how to hold on without making it about him? New Year's Day, I finally replied to the last text my dad had sent weeks ago. You coming home this year? I sent. No. But I'm building something new. He didn't respond. Not right away. But 3 days later, a message popped up. You could have told me how much it meant to you. That was it. No apology. No ownership. Just another variation of you should have made it easier for me to understand you. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I realized something then, maybe the most important thing. Sometimes the people who hurt you don't think they've done anything wrong. They rewrite the story in their heads and cast themselves as the misunderstood parent or the well-meaning partner or the rational one, just trying their best. But if they never make space for your version of events, your hurt doesn't exist to them. And that's not your fault. That's not your burden to fix. Classes resumed. I threw myself into my major. Got closer with my roommate. I started spending weekends volunteering at the animal shelter nearby, something I never had time for before. And somewhere in that rhythm of lectures, late-night study sessions, and the small joy of being surrounded by people who chose me, I stopped checking my phone for messages that never came. I stopped hoping for explanations that were never going to arrive. I stopped measuring my worth by how welcome I was in a house that no longer had a room for me. One afternoon in March, Emma messaged me again. He packed up your last few things. Said you could get them whenever. He couldn't even ask me himself? He still thinks you're mad over just a room. I stared at the message for a moment. Then I replied. It was never just a room. It was proof I belonged. A long pause. Then Emma sent. I kept your Harry Potter book set, BTW. Hope that's okay. I know it sounds silly, but I read them when I miss you. I smiled. For the first time in months, it didn't feel like something was missing. Final thoughts. I didn't go back for the holidays that year, or the next, but I made new memories, built new places that felt like mine. And slowly, without realizing it, I stopped calling that house home. Because the truth is, home isn't four walls or a familiar bed or a childhood closet filled with trophies and report cards. It's being remembered when you're gone. It's someone saying, of course we saved your spot. It's knowing you matter. Not in theory, but in practice. And when that's gone, you don't have to chase it. You can build your own.